But we didn't know a thing about what's that all about. It was an ideological concept in a community with an outstanding public school system. If we were sitting here in Louisiana or Florida, I might say, or Alabama, because I've worked in all of those states, their school systems are not so good. I'd say maybe an educational opportunity fund there would be a good idea, and if you have the money. But we didn't have the money, and our public school system was being stressed. Maintenance of facilities, teacher salaries. Good Lord, how many boxes of tissues do we have to send in? But we're gonna put, and it wasn't, it came out to be $400,000. Didn't start that way. Started at $900,000, not in 2015, in the year before, which were even tighter times. And we were under more stress with the school system. So calmer heads, I think, prevailed. And it's a give and take in politics. You all know this is an ugly business. And we've seen some ugliness in this community over this election. I don't like it. I don't think it's right. But it comes out when people are threatened about what they want and what they want to do. This Educational Opportunity Fund, I would give it a thread if we had enough money to fund our public school system and our teachers were being paid, and yeah, it would be a nice thing to do, but that was not the case. And then to have commissioners say, what are your reserve funds to the school system, to the community college, to the public library? Can't have any reserves, which is just good fiscal responsibility. But we have money left in that fund. And what do? We added another $400,000 to it. And it's run under the Community Foundation, and they will not release who gets any money. I understand that for privacy reasons. I get that. But what's the criteria? There was no criteria even prior to creating that fund. Now, I would think if that fund was so important that there would be criteria. And there would be us clearly saying, we have a couple thousand students that are homeschooled, and they're at risk now because their families are feeling the same pressures ours are. But I'm not sure that was the case. So I gotta tell you, I could not have agreed to an Educational Opportunity Fund when my idea of the Educational Opportunity Fund is our public school system. Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier and I created the Education Opportunity Fund, and I want to put it in perspective. First off, it was funded with prior year fund balance, which means it does not affect this public school system operating budget. Second, the amount of the fund is approximately 1/7 of 1% of what we use to operate the public schools. Third, the guidelines for disbursement of funds only reimburse things that are paid for public school children. We do not reimburse things out of the Education Opportunity Fund that are paid for with public school funds. There was some concern about that expressed earlier by Commissioner Howard, and in subsequent discussions with the Community Foundation, we agreed that they would make sure there was parity between the Education Opportunity Fund and the public school system. So those comments made by my colleague over here were not correct. This is America, and I believe that parents and not a zip code should determine where our children go to school. And there are parents that have unique needs for their children. I've talked with them. We have over 5,000 children that are not in the public school system. We have parents that have unique concerns about things such as the type of values that are taught because they may think differently than the school system. This is not a rendering a bad judgment against the school system, not at all, but they have different values, and this is America. And people say to me, well, they're free to go where they want to go. That's not true. See, if I tell someone that they're free to eat at any restaurant they want, but unless they go to the one that I want, they're going to have to pay twice, that's not really freedom, that's coercion. And we know that having private education competition is good. There are several benefits of something like an Education Opportunity Fund that benefit public schools and the community also. Number one, it is a tremendous competitive advantage when we talk to executives that are thinking about moving into a nearby county, be it Howard, Frederick, or Carroll. When I tell these executives that we have an Education Opportunity Fund and private and homeschool children can also receive some reimbursements. They go, wow, that's really neat. Are you the only one that has that? I say, yes, we are, sir. We're the only ones. Well, that's good to know. And that helps bring business into the county. That helps increase our tax base. And that helps increase the amount of revenue available for all schools. So you might call it a kind of trickle up. Second, we know from studies done by the Friedman Foundation that education competition improves the quality of all education. We know that a public school system that does not have to compete for children teaches what government wants it to teach. We're seeing that with Common Core. We know that a public education system that has to compete with private schools in order to obtain students teaches what parents want. I've said today, I've said before, you show me a public school system that has to compete for students, they'll get a marketing department, they'll start interviewing parents, and they'll dramatically adjust their criteria so they're now teaching exactly what our community wants rather than what Obama or O'Malley wants them to teach. So this competition breeds improvement. The same thing that brings us a $100 iPod that'll hold 3,000 songs. The same thing that brings us a computer, which is, what, I have 1 minute left? That brought us computers that now cost 1/1000th of what they cost just 20 years ago, will also result in refinement of education. There's nothing better to improve any product or service in education. The Education Opportunity Fund helps moves us in that direction. And finally, I want to point out that a public education costs our taxpayers $12,600 per year per student. When students choose a private or parochial or homeschool education, it costs the taxpayers, well, in this point in juncture, at most $1,000. But I believe the net benefits of this fund are good for our community, they're good for our parents. I want to make it clear that a lot of these parents are one-income families. This is not the wine and champagne crowd. These are parents on a very tight budget. They have unique needs. I know one parent had a child with dyslexia, needed to do homeschooling. They have values that they're concerned are not being taught in our public school system because of issues with respect to this alleged separation of church and state issues. And the bottom line is this: I believe that the Education Opportunity Fund in the long run will bring competition that will bring a better school, bring us all better schools. Thank you.
We're now passing out question 3. Commissioner Rothschild, you will be first. No, he went first last time. It's your turn.
Have you read the question yet?
Give me a chance to read the question. We feel fortunate to have the opportunity for our 6th grade children to attend the outdoor school program. This program is unique to Carroll County since no other jurisdiction in our area provides a program that is comparable. Describe your position on the importance of the outdoor school program and what you would do as a commissioner to maintain the program.
My position on the outdoor school is very easy to articulate. It's very simple. That's a decision to be made by the Board of Education. The Board of Education has a $330 million budget. We run the rest of government on a $170 million budget. Okay, I am concerned, though, that the Board of Education has used the outdoor school as a tool to manipulate public perception. I'm concerned they use it as a tool to bring about an emotional response and manipulate the emotional response from parents. That school really has a de minimis effect on the budget. It's a few $100,000s a year to operate it, so it's well under 1% of the school budget, well under 1/3 of 1% of the school budget. And I think it's wrong for us to continue to make this outdoor school the ball that's in play, the tennis ball that's in play, being volleyed back and forth by the Board of Education every time we don't fulfill all the funding demands, which we are simply incapable of fulfilling because we do not have the money. The first thing the Board of Education says is, well, we're going to close the outdoor school because they know that parents like the outdoor school. I like the outdoor school, and I think we should stop doing that. I think the Board of Education has a responsibility of setting the correct priorities. It's clear from the outcry from the community that the outdoor school is something that our parents love and enjoy. It's clear that our parents love it and enjoy it. So that's something that probably should not be on the chopping block. But there are certainly other programs that are in the school system that maybe are not as popular, and maybe we should consider trimming. And as I said before, we certainly have capital costs and infrastructure costs which we could consider trimming, and I think we ought to go that direction first. So the bottom line is this: I don't think there's any need to close the outdoor school, but that decision rests with the Board of Education. My role as a commissioner is to fund the school system. My role as a commissioner is to defend your constitutional rights. And my role as a commissioner is to manage the government in a way which is fiscally responsible. We have limits. It's not fun having to stand in front of people and not tell them what they want to hear. You lose votes that way. Parents don't like you. They don't want to say hi to you in the supermarket. So you need to ask yourself, why would Commissioner Rauchow take this position? Well, the answer is because somebody has to take the tough decisions to live within our constraints. And I've always believed that it's necessary for good elected officials to put principles over politics. When I make decisions, I don't worry about whether it's going to get me votes. I don't worry about whether it's going to ingratiate with me with any particular segment of the population. I do what I think is best. Our county's financial situation is still good, but we have to make some difficult decisions, and that means we're going to have to start dealing with reality. Using the outdoor school as the whipping boy for all of this battle, the symbolic whipping boy, really is not appropriate in my judgment, because we know that parents overwhelmingly support it. So I think most likely the correct decision by the BOE would be to keep it open, but we certainly have some other very difficult dialogue we need to have about how we're going to get our costs down of our education system. You know, I said before, if we could downsize our education system from $330 million down to $300 million, we could give every teacher, that's a 10% reduction, we give every teacher a 10% raise tomorrow, and we could be above the state median salary. That's really the solution. There's just no way around this, unless we raise taxes. And with respect to attracting people into the county, it's not that we're losing many people as much as the fact Carroll County is one of the greatest places to live. I love this county. It's in my mind, it's in my heart, it's in my soul. But the fact of the matter is people are not leaving for the most part. They're retiring here, and our population is getting older, and we're having fewer children. And we know that that trend line will continue at least through 2023 or so. We just can't afford to kick this can down the road anymore. If we want to help our teachers, we're going to do much better with a slightly smaller but higher quality school system than trying to carry more overhead than we can handle. It's just too much of a stress right now. It didn't work for 3 years prior to us taking office, and now we've been in office for 3 years and it's still not working. I don't think there's any other option other than to just make the hard decisions, decommission a few of our older schools, get the cost down, a slightly smaller, higher quality system with better paid employees, and I think everybody comes out on top. Thank you.
Mrs. Biller's up next.
I don't know if anyone's familiar, in business school you talk about Al the Hatchet from GE, and he was really good at it, and that's what they hired him to do. So you've got Al the Hatchet, or you've got It's Better with Biller. We're decommissioning schools, we've got empty seats, yes, and it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy, okay? An outdoor school, yes, it is the Board of Ed's responsibility, and I will tell you as a businesswoman, when I'm in a tough negotiation, I use every ounce of leverage I have. And if it's parents and outdoor school, and if that's the last straw, because we've cut, the Board of Ed has cut. Jen Seidel can give you the numbers. Teachers, positions. I have 4 grandchildren. 2 of them are in Robert Moten Elementary School. They are. And they don't have classroom support for first graders and kindergartners. And how many kids are in those classes? Outdoor school, there's some options there. And so what's being talked about is, should it be 4 days? Should it be 3 days? I'm a businesswoman. Maybe we get some company to come in and help us. You know, no stadium is purely the stadium anymore. It's somebody owns it, and they put their name on it. You know, I'm about ideas. If we have issues, we need to sit down at the table. If outdoor school is the straw that's breaking the camel's back, and that's what generates people, parents getting excited and up in arms about what's happening with their school system, then that's what it takes. But you've got some distinctly different opinions about where our county is going. Senior housing. Well, I like senior housing. My mom is 90 years old, but she likes to be around her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. And a robust community has a mixture of children and adults and senior citizens. Because I will tell you, my mom lights up when her granddaughters and her great-granddaughters show up. And that's her reason for living. So a mixed community is really what we need. Not senior housing, because they demand less services. Quite frankly, senior housing can demand just as much services as schools. And do we need to decommission schools? Well, that is a Board of Ed, and I'm sorry, Jen, I'm pointing at you, but I know you're on the Board of Ed. And there's not, I don't think, any other Board of Ed people here, but Jen's always very involved, because she takes Board of Ed seriously, and I take our county seriously. And we need to work together to say, is it outdoor school? Well, are we going to do some creative things to keep outdoor school? I will tell you, outdoor school is a rite of passage, not only here in Carroll County, but in other counties. So does that mean I have 30 seconds left? One minute, okay. I'm getting onto this light thing. And when the blue light comes on, it's Walmart, blue light special. Outdoor school is a rite of passage for kids in a lot of ways. They learn about the environment, but guess what? They spend the night away from mom and dad for a week. And it is a rite of passage in a culture where we don't always have those rites of passage. And I don't want to see that go. And I know a lot of parents don't want to see that go. So let's figure it out. I'm not a spendthrift, you know. I'm gonna get attacked for, oh, she's gonna spend, she's gonna raise taxes. Believe me, I drive a 2005 car because I like it and it still runs. I know value, and I know when you have to make tough budget decisions, I can do it. But I'm gonna work with the Board of Ed and the parents. We're gonna figure this out.
If I'm supposed to say something in response to the other candidates, I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to say in an outdoor school question about senior housing. Okay. But the outdoor school is a fun program. My brother loved the outdoor school. And he's still, to this day, some 10, 15 years later, he'll still drive up to Oshawa because he just, he loves it out there. He loves the woods. And it is a great program, particularly for a county that's really agricultural based. And it's really good to show kids about the wildlife, the environment, to teach them about some of that. And we do have other great environmental programs like, the environmental, the Olympics or something of that nature they called it. But if there really is a cost issue, then maybe perhaps we could merge a few of these programs. Maybe they could do the environmental Olympics at the outdoor school or something. But it's only recently that they've ever been complaining about the budget for this program. I've never heard of this program being that expensive that we've needed to cut it. This is the first I've ever heard of that being discussed. And if we do need to bring somebody in to help manage it, maybe there will be instead of a private corporation earning a profit off of our children's education, maybe there's a non-profit. Maybe one of the nature centers would want to step in. Maybe there's a non-profit that would want to help manage an educational program like this. But for a county like us to be connected with agriculture, to be connected with nature, we've already removed some programs from schools. We don't have horticulture classes in high school no more. We really shouldn't be removing these things if this has always been the basis for our community.
Mrs. Biller will be leading off this time. We'll go ahead and read the question. Mount Airy Middle School benefits from the contributions of a diverse staff. We have many wonderful teachers who have less than 5 years of experience. We are concerned that these teachers may seek to move to other counties to seek higher salaries. As a commissioner, what steps would you take to restore funding to the school system to address concern.
This is a tough one. There's a couple issues here because the county commissioners have the responsibility to fund the school system. And then there is the Board of Ed. And then there is also the Carroll County Education Association. So there are structures in place that do not enable the county commissioners to say, I want to stroke of a pen and give enough for a step increase for teachers or X percentage of a raise for them, and I want to make sure it goes to them. That is not in place today. That does not exist. And it's not taking the easy way out, but it's understanding what the structure is and why the Board of Commissioners is structured as they are, and why the Board of Ed is structured as it is, and why there's a Carroll County Education Association. So for me to say, you know, I sympathize. This is a recurring theme not only with teachers, but our law enforcement, our deputies. We are in the same situation. My concern, and I live it every day as a small businesswoman, I'm a training ground for people. And I invest in my employees, and I invest in training. And as soon as they get 3-4 years of experience, and I get them right where I need them, and they're like really chugging along, they come in and the conversation goes a little bit like this. Barb, I really like working here. It's a really great company. You've done some great things for me. I got training, got some raises, well, so that might not apply. But I got a better job. And in 2 weeks, I'm gonna leave you. It's been great. I just want you to know it's been the best experience of my life. It's a great place here, but I'm moving on. That is what we are starting to see in Carroll County. Look for that light. Deputies, because young professionals in our education system, they come out of college, they need a job. And they need to, and this is a great place to start. This is a great place to work. So they want to start here and they get a couple of years experience. But then the grass is greener. And I've had plenty of people that had their first real job with me. The grass is always greener. Now I've had some come back too because they realize the grass is not always greener. And this is a great community. And you know what? We don't have issues in our school system like they do in other places, where fights are breaking out and kids are bringing things to school that you just don't even want to think about. So this is a good place to work and a good place to get your teeth kind of, you know, into the job. But is it a good place to stay? And that's the issue. We've got teachers that hit that 5 years, but I will tell you other counties have that too, because that 5 to 7 year period for teachers is tough. Because they start thinking, man, this is just a tough job. I gotta come to the classroom every day, and these kids, you know, they put me through the ringer. It's a tough job. But when your choice is, it's a tough job, but I can make 10 grand more driving just a little bit farther to work, that's an issue. And that's an issue we have to face with our deputies, and that's an issue that we have to face with our teachers. It's not gonna be an easy one, but it's gonna take working and understanding between the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education and probably the CCEA. And I've reached out to several of the members of the Board of Ed to say, I want you to know who I am, I want you to know how I work, I want you to know I have a lot of energy and we can get this done, but we're gonna have to figure it out. It's gonna be a hard discussion, so, blue light.
Mr. Sherry?
When it comes to salaries and wages, I'm not for or against any particular group. I would like to see a wage increase across the board for everybody. The whole county, all county employees, everyone. Because in the economy we have right now, you can't afford anything. you live day to day in debt. And, you know, they want you to live in debt. They want you to keep borrowing. We just need a better wage structure, period. And I would want to implement that. As far as teachers' years of experience and them leaving and us having a sort of a revolving door, that is a bad thing. But also in a certain sense, that means that we're an area that can teach our educators. And then those people who want to be teachers will come to us to get those early years of experience that they need. So it's not necessarily a bad thing altogether that we might lose some teachers to a neighboring county. But we should probably in some way emphasize that we can give the early teachers the education they need. And then they will come here. And then that we can grow our teacher base that way. Not all of them will leave. Some will probably want to stay. And I think that maybe we could work with the teachers union or the teachers of the schools to keep those teachers that do want to stay. And otherwise, we could just be a center, a community where people can come to get the experience they need for their careers in the education sector.
One of my favorite words in this campaign is the word apocryphal. Apocryphal is something which is widely believed to be true, but in fact it's not. If we're going to fix problems, we have to deal with real data, not apocryphal data. We have to make fact-based decisions. And one of the questions was, what will we do to restore funding? Well, what does that question mean, restore funding? If we've got 1,800 fewer students and spending is up 22 million, what does it mean to restore funding? If spending per student is up, what does it mean to restore funding? That's an ambiguous goal. Second, with respect to our school system cutting positions, we have thousands of less students than we had 6 or 8 years ago, so it's natural that things would be cut. But I want to point out something. The perceptions are not backed up by the Education Fact Book. The Education Fact Book is published by the Maryland State Department of Education. There's one every year. I encourage you to go online, just Google MSDE Education Fact Book. And you'll find something very interesting. If you look at our staffing for 2008, you'll find that Carroll County's instructional staff numbered 2,445 teachers. Instructional staff, that might have included aides too. In 2013, that number went up to 2,477 for a net increase of 32 personnel on the instructional staff level. So the perception in the comments that we're slashing staff are apocryphal, they're not true. The fact is staffing has gone up while enrollment has gone down. You can all confirm that by comparing the 2008 to 2013 MSDE Fact Book, page 8. It's the same in both years. I've got that data with me if anyone would like to see it. Second, certainly our salaries need some fine-tuning. I certainly would love to see our teachers and all of our government employees get raises every year, but it's not a question of desire, it's a question of means. We can't do it. We don't have the money right now. But I am pleased to see that many of our teachers are getting significant increases in compensation. You can go online to the Carroll County Times, look up, Google Carroll County 2012 salaries, Carroll County 2013 salaries. We had some citizens that ran an alphabetical list. I think you have the handout. Our teachers are making more money. Going through it alphabetically, we have raises running 14.6%, 10%, 7%, 3%, 4%, 3%, 8.8%, 2.6%, 17.9%, 14.5%. Some people check South Carroll, the numbers are similar, 13%, 17%, 3%, 2%, 1%, 15%. So not everyone's going up, but certainly some of our teachers are progressing in their career, and that's a good thing. So this doom and gloom that says we're going to lose all of our teachers, that's simply not true. Now, I do share a concern, though, that's reflected in the question, which is our entry-level teachers are the lowest paid in the state. I've had discussions with Superintendent Guthrie. I said, raise them up, bump them 1,000 or 2. Well, I can't, Commissioner. Collective bargaining contracts. I think we need to move away from collective bargaining. We need to get away from these constraints and let the superintendent make surgical adjustments to our pay scale so that we do a little bit better job, because it's pretty darn hard to live off $40,400 a year. Although I did check a few teachers that got bumped up to closer to the $43,000 to $45,000 range last year. So we are making steps in the right direction. Do we have some challenges? Yes. is this apocalyptic storyline that was greatly exaggerated, and it's simply not accurate. And again, now I want to point out something else. One of my colleagues up here said, well, we're going to have to figure it out. Figuring it out is not the solution. That's not a solution, though. We've already figured it out. We've only got two options. Our spending is too high right now. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough money. We're going to have to